Today on FSI, we are breaking down the Baltimore Ravens at home against the Cleveland Browns. I'm your host, Tom Cross, and to my right is our analytics expert, Stephen Fu.
Thanks for joining us on this matchup. Baltimore is -9 on the spread, -380 on the money line, and Browns are +310. There hasn't been much movement on the line, and depending on your bookie, you might even see it at 8.5 points. But the book we use, it's listed at 9. If we're looking back to last season, Baltimore was a 7-point favorite in the first matchup, and Cleveland won that game straight up. Game 2 now is a different story. Ravens rested a lot of their starters and still covered that 10-point spread. They were without Lemar Jackson and Mark Ingram. That +300 for Cleveland does look intriguing. However, it's going to be a very risky bet any way you put it. Ravens had a whole season together, so we should see significant improvement to their team chemistry.
Baltimore is -9 points, and that's high, especially for a division game, and that's always a bad combination. Like Steve said, the Browns, they did beat Baltimore last season in the first matchup, and I really feel like the odds makers are giving you a lot of points in the division game, so they're kind of baiting you to take the Browns.
Baker Mayfield was not good at all last season. There was a big decline since his rookie year, having more turnovers and lower efficiency. He only had a 59% completion rate, which ranked him 29th in the league. He also had 21 interceptions, second most of any quarterback. They did make some improvements to their offensive line, so we could see some regression coming into this season.
Lamar Jackson is the most exciting quarterback in the league today. His speed is unmatched. He's able to take a 5-yard carry and turn it into 10, a 9-yard carry and turn it into a 20-plus yard gain. The one thing that surprises me is his touch on the ball. Unlike Michael Vick, who only was able to throw lasers, he can throw a variety of throws to his receivers. Now, his receivers, that's where they lack at. There's not much talent there outside of Marquise Brown.
The Browns' offensive line was just below average, ranking in at 17th last year. However, they did add top free agent Jack Conklin, who will be on a $42 million contract. They also used their 10th overall pick to draft Jedrick Wills Jr. The Ravens' D-line is pretty vulnerable, only 37 sacks last season, and that ranked in at 24th. They did, however, add Calais Campbell, but this is his 13th season. He's not going to make much of an impact, so they'll be counting on Matt Judon to apply pressure.
The Baltimore Ravens offensive line is one of the best in the game. They just gave up 25 sacks last season, and they are the force behind the #1 rushing attack. Now, they were actually one of the reasons why I drafted Lamar Jackson in my fantasy league last year, because if you have a great offensive line, success from the quarterback will follow.
The Browns have great receivers on the outside. Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry both had over 1,000 yards. We'll be seeing them getting the most targets in this game. The Ravens will also be completely healthy coming in this season. Marcus Peters and Jimmy Smith were not available for 5 games, so having them in this matchup will definitely limit their passing ability.
The biggest weakness for the Baltimore Ravens is their wide receiver core. Marquise Brown, their most talented receiver, had under 600 yards receiving last year. They lost Hayden Hurst in a trade to the Falcons. He averaged 20 yards per catch. I don't really get that move. I thought they were kind of lethal with their 2 stud tight ends. Outside of getting Antonio Brown, this is their biggest weakness. Although they are the front runners since he is cousins with Marquise Brown. Now, on the other side of the ball, they're facing a Browns secondary that ranks 7th in the league. They have a lot of talent at the cornerback position. They feature Greedy Williams and Denzel Ward. In free agency, they added Andrew Sendejo. So the sky's the limit. I feel like these guys can play man and focus on stopping that lethal Ravens running attack.
The strongest aspect of the Cleveland offense is actually the rushing attack. They rank 5th overall, and that averaged out to 4.8 yards per carry. Nick Chubb had the second most yards last year and will obviously be the primary ball carrier for the Browns. Baltimore is actually pretty weak in this area of their defense, so pounding the rock might yield great success to their overall offense. If they need to bring up a safety, that will open up the passing attack for those dynamic receivers of Cleveland.
The Baltimore Ravens had the #1 rushing attack in the NFL. They were able to beat you with speed and power with Lamar Jackson, Mark Ingram, Gus Edwards, and they just added J.K. Hobbs out of Ohio State. They had 3,296 yards on the ground, and I expect them to do it again. Now, the Browns' defensive line ranked 29th in the league against the run. Good news is they're getting Myles Garrett back from suspension, but I think the Ravens will dominate this matchup on the ground.
The Browns have upgraded their weakest position group, so we should see them perform better this season. The Ravens have also struggled against teams with a talented secondary, and that's exactly what the Browns have. The Ravens' defensive line was also terrible last year, so the Browns' offense should operate smoothly. Cleveland should have the advantage in this matchup, so if the book is giving you points, you have to take that.
I love double-digit spreads in division games. So I'm going to take the Browns here and buy an extra point, taking it all the way up to 10. Now the Browns are going to pound the rock with new head coach Kevin Stefanski. He's going to turn Baker Mayfield into the new Kirk Cousins. They're going to limit him so he doesn't make any mistakes. Also, a lower-paced game will result in a closer score. That's it for us. Do me a favor and smash that like button and subscribe. Tell us who you're taking in the comments below.
We don't care about favorite teams here. Our focus is on making you money. Follow our social media on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. The links are below.